Well, howdy y'all. Was struggling again for today's video and finally come up with the idea of, after a couple of live streams with Papa Prepper, to make a short video and give you all some resources in amateur radio and what have you. I know there's still a lot of questions. So many of you is new to the hobby. Many of you is in the prepping community, worried about an SHTF event and what to look for, where to go, what to do, what you're looking at, things of that sort. So, wanted to cut a video here to try to help all y'all along here that are new to the hobby. First thing, question come up in one of the live streams is how a new person can get started in the hobby, gain some experience, that sort of thing. We live in such a divisive world here anymore that kind of hard to make friends and reach out and meet people and such as that, and the world is very fractured right now. But there are several organizations that can help you along the path here. The biggest one here in the States is the American Radio Relay League. They are based in Newington, Connecticut. There has been a lot of criticism of them through the years for one thing and another. The biggest one since I've been in the hobby was their position in the codeless amateur radio license. Came about in 1991. They originally did not support a codeless amateur radio license. And this I know because I was at a ham fest, which is, think of them as a flea market for ham radio people. I was at one in St. Charles, Missouri in 1987. And there was a talk given by a man named Dave Sumner, who was at the time, I believe, the vice president of the ARRL. One of the guys I was with got up and specifically asked him when Dave opened up the floor to questions, what the official position of the ARRL was going to be. Would they ever support a no-code amateur radio license? He said absolutely not. It wasn't but another 3-4 years down the pike, they were giving it their complete support. And some of the old school folks were very critical of this position, saying they were doing that just to sell their publications, the largest of which is a monthly magazine called QST. A fine publication in its own right. I have to give them their due on that. Although it is a commercial publication, they do take advertising, run classifieds, etc. They do have some good articles in QST. The ARRL, to their credit, does still do a lot for the amateur radio service. We have, although I'm not a member, the dues structure right now is more than I can afford. But they have amateur radio testing, have a really good website. I'll link it in the description, where you can find testing sessions, where you can find a club local to you, things of that sort, along with code practice on the air 7 days a week, except for the big holidays such as Thanksgiving and Christmas. And their schedule for when these code practice transmissions are on the air is available online, along with the times, the frequencies, etc. So those of you with a shortwave receiver can often listen to this, help improve your code speed. So I will link to that in the description. Now there are a couple of organizations that those of you in the prepping community, I think would find very beneficial. One of them is called QRP ARCI, and off the top of my head, I do not recall what the ARCI stands for. I had it and didn't write it down. Along with the American QRP Club, and ironically a low power. QRP simply means low power, by the way. These folks typically like to run less than 5 watts. Another organization for QRPers called Flying Pigs, which I find amusing for some reason. These are the low power guys that like to have a good time and like to have a good laugh. Many of these low power organizations, by the way, are also guys that like to build their own equipment, hack around and play, and find parts, find kits, cabinets, transistors, capacitors, knobs, all the stuff that goes into building their own equipment. And there is a certain element of pride that goes with that. Those of you that like to build your own greenhouses, chicken coops, some of you may have built your own home, cook your own meals, from scratch, that sort of thing. Will work on your own vehicles, etc. Will understand the sense of pride that goes in behind that. It's the same feeling. QRP is especially beautiful in an SHTF event, because if you're going to be running your equipment, say off a marine battery or your solar generator or something, you really want to keep the power down to keep your batteries alive longer, keep it running longer to get you through the event. You don't want to be running the high power stuff that'll drain your batteries fast. Run your generators out of fuel, things like that. Now, a note for you ladies that are getting interested in amateur radio, again from the prepping community, and I've seen many of you that are looking into the hobby. You will be a novelty on the air, largely because amateur radio, and it has not been this way by design, it is just, this is the way it's worked. Amateur radio has been largely a hobby of guys, and I might add, largely old white guys like me, that play with the radio equipment. So, ladies, you will be popular by default on the air. And there is an organization just for the ladies. The Young Ladies Radio League, YLRL. So, a good time fellowshipping that way. Now, those of you interested in Morse and learning Morse and wanting to learn it, 2 organizations for you. One is called the Straight Key Century Club, and the other is called FIS, like you make a fist. Give you a little bit on both of them. FIS goes back to, I know they were in operation as of the late 80s. And I want to say they go back a good bit farther than that. Originally a British group that has since expanded. They've got members here in the States, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, China, as well as people who do not hold a valid amateur radio license but support the use of Morse. You may ask how the name FIS came to be. Think of the alphabet. The 26 letters, the 10 numbers that make up our alphabet, okay? An A is an A, a B is a B, a C is a C, etc. And it's that same way in Morse. However, if you take 10 people and set them down and tell them to write the alphabet, the penmanship will be slightly different with those 10 people. Well, a fist in Morse code is how somebody will send those characters. It will be slightly different from person to person. And that change in penmanship, as it were, is said to be their fist. My fist versus the next guy versus anybody else. Again, the letters are all the same. An A is an A, a B is a B, a C is a C. But every ham sending will have a slightly unique pattern. So that is said to be their fist. Hence the name of the organization. Now, the Straight Key Century Club, I believe, was founded in, I want to say, around 2006, 2007. It was somewhere in there that I joined it. The straight key was the old school method of sending Morse code. Think pre the advent of computers and all the fancy electronics. It's what Samuel Morse and everything would have used when they originally set it up. All the military guys would have used a straight key. And what that is, you get a group of old school guys and gals who get a little disgusted with computer sending and it being just too peachy perfect, and take it back old school, do it manually like we did years ago. That's the idea behind it. Both organizations, by the way, do not necessarily worry about the speed at which you can either send or receive Morse code. They prefer the quality of it, accuracy, sending decent, accurate Morse code over how fast your ability is to send or receive. By the way, Morse code you will also hear referred to as CW, or continuous wave. Interchangeable terms, Morse code and CW, same thing. So those are two organizations. SKCC is free. FIS, I think, recently converted over to a free lifetime membership. Dues for the longest time were $10 or $15. FIS also puts out a quarterly. I believe they've since switched everything online, though. SKCC does everything pretty well exclusively online, although I do believe they have a newsletter. I am not a subscriber, so I don't know. But everything I see through them is done either through their website or through an email reflector. And I do subscribe to their email, and they have a decent website as well. I will link to both organizations in the description. The last organization some of you might like to play with is AM. Same mode that's used on CB as well as the AM broadcast band. Same mode. Again, old school hacks. This is not CW, by the way. This is a voice mode. But this group is largely hams that love to play with the old equipment, the old vacuum tube stuff, great big boat anchors, as we call them, where a lot of times you may have a separate transmitter and receiver. Guys like to take and rebuild these rigs, put new capacitors and everything in them, get them back on the air just like they would have been back in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Now, last question I'll deal with, and we're looking at 14 minutes here. Equipment manufacturers. Right now, we have 4 big ones that are in current production. Tentec, which is American, based in Sevierville, Tennessee. Pricey, but makes some very good equipment. They've always had some very top-notch stuff. Then 3 Japanese firms. Yaesu, that's spelled Y-A-E-S-U, Yaesu, Kenwood, and ICOM. Kenwood, y'all may be familiar with from car stereos, etc. And ICOM is I-C-O-M. They also make some marine radios and etc. ICOM does. But those are the 4 big ones. We do have some other lesser-known manufacturers. Electrocraft is one. That's for the kit builder guys and the low-power boys. The K3, the Electrocraft K3 was really popular years ago. 100-watt radio came as a kit. Again, we got people that enjoy homebrewing their own equipment, come as a kit, assemble it at home. So a lot of pride in that. Electrocraft had the K1, which, as I recall, was a single band. The K2, I don't remember a lot about them. I remember hearing a lot of them on the air. And the K3, which is an all-band 100-watt radio. Then you start running into some of the used equipment from years ago. Heathkit was a big one, based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They are no longer active. However, much of the equipment is still floating around the used market, eBay, Hamfest, etc. Those came in kit form, had to be put together. They gained a lot of popularity with the QRP gangs. They had the HW7, the HW8, and the HW9. If you find an unassembled HW9 on eBay, expect to drop. I've seen them over $300 on eBay. And some of the other older stuff. Drake was an excellent line. Had what was known as Drake Twins, where we had a separate transmitter and receiver. Sweet sounding equipment on the air. Largely vacuum tubes. Although in later years they did get into some solid state stuff. They did some shortwave equipment. The R7, the R8. Don't believe there was an R9, but I do remember the R7 and the R8. Very popular amongst the shortwave listening crowd. Although, again, you're getting a little pricey for the Drake name. I believe they were based in Ohio, as I recall. I had a Swan years ago. Very good radio. No CW filters, but would give me about 160, 180 watts output on a good day. All vacuum tubes. Trying to think of some of the others. Hallicrafters was a big one years ago. Hammerland. I believe Lafayette's, Gonsets, Gonset, Gonset. And these are largely tube equipment. You'll still find this stuff floating around, again, the Hamfest market, eBay, etc. The problem you're going to find if you look for a lot of the old tube gear on eBay, shipping is going to get expensive because the equipments are big, they're heavy, and shipping's going to eat you up. And I might preface to say you can also look at the ARRL website for Hamfest in your region. The problem therein was the global sickness hit last year, and many a Hamfest had to shut down. There's a big one every year in Dayton, Ohio. You simply mention the name Dayton, and all the old school hams will know what you're talking about. Very big Hamfest, runs 3 days. Been there 3 times, 87, 88, 89. It was held at ARRL Arena in Dayton. They recently had to move it to Xenia, Ohio. Forget all the details behind that now, but it seems like ARRL Arena recently had to be demolished. Tornado damage last year, as I recall. But mention Dayton to any old school ham, and they'll automatically know what you're talking about. So if you're looking for the older used gear, the vacuum tube equipment, it's generally best to go to a Hamfest and start looking around that way. That way you don't have to pay the shipping cost. Many Hamfests, I might add, will offer a testing session if you're looking to pass your technician license, or you're wanting to upgrade. If you have your technician and you're wanting to upgrade to general or extra, etc., many of them will offer testing. And a lot of them will have forums and, meetings, classes, etc. on different topics, packet radio, FT8, etc. So there are some resources for you folks. I'm getting long here. We're at over 20 minutes, and this ran longer than I expected, but that's a good thing. Hope this was helpful, y'all. I'm sure more videos will follow. If you got any questions, comments, etc., leave it down in the comment section, and we will address accordingly. With that, see you all later.